Hi, this is Big Red and this is Rebel Rabble, the who, what, when, where, why of the 1837 Upper Canada Rebellion. Now here in Upper Canada, basically Ontario for what we call it now, we were owned by Queen Victoria and her empire that spanned the world. Now, she's back in England, and she can't rightly just come over here in an airplane, nor can she Skype, so she needs somebody over here in a colonial government to look after Canada, to make sure everything's running peachy keen. Here in Upper Canada, we have a lieutenant governor that's going to look after Canada for Queen Victoria, or, you know, the captain to Team Canada. His name is Sir Francis Bondhead, and his right-hand man is General Fitzgibbon. Since 1812, the Canadas have been having a little bit of a hard time settling in above their American neighbors. Why? Well, the War of 1812 left a little bit of a sour taste in most Canadian mouths. Say that 5 times fast. Canadian mouths, Canadian mouths, Canadian mouths, Canadian mouths. No, it just sounds weirder every time. Can they trust their American neighbors? I mean, just recently they up and attack them, and who's to say they won't do this again? And there are more Americans settling into Canada as well, because there's more room to spread out here, and land is going for cheap. But are they moving up here to spy on us? Or are they really just farmers settling into a new home? Can we trust them? Some of the rules of moving into Canada are much like the rules of living in England. For example, for every 7 pieces of land, 1 of them goes to the church. These pieces of land are called clergy reserves, meaning that they are reserved for the church. Just like how you make a reservation at a restaurant without ever having to go to the restaurant first. It's reserved for you. It's safe. Now remember, in this time period, churches are much like community centers. It's where you meet friends, sing some songs, learn to read and write, hang out with new people, and you might even meet your new husband or wife. But of course it's about religion too, so that's why these churches for the clergy reserve were reserved for the Church of England, meaning only Anglican. Now does that seem fair? It seemed unfair that the people who are moving to Upper Canada and are not Anglican will not have a place to worship, not have a place to hang out. They're going to miss out on their community center. Did you know that today there is a bylaw that you have to clear the sidewalk of snow so that people can get by nice and safe? Because, here's a sad story, somebody would then go into the streets if your sidewalk is not clear and they might get hit by a car. This is a sad fact. Now let's rewind to the 1800s. When you get your piece of land, you have to make a piece of road. Not just shovel it, you have to make it. And by making this road, you are clearing the way for travelers to get by. But can you imagine making a road? It has to be wide enough for wagons and horses and people, oh my! So, that's the deal. You want a farm? You gotta make a road. But again, do you really think that the bishop is going to come out of his cathedral and pave a roadway? These clergy reserves didn't have a family living there 24/7 to clear the roadway. So after every 6 farms, boom, a wild forest appears. Now remember, these forests are about 100 acres because they would be the same size as a farm. So how big is 100 acres? Not all of us live on farms these days. A farm is about 6.7 hockey rinks, length after length after length. The farmers started to hate the clergy reserves because 1, not my religion, and 2, no continuous roads to anywhere. With issues like that, it's easy to see why the farmers were a little bit upset about how Upper Canada was shaping up to be. And they did what they were supposed to. They petitioned to their council, which was the Legislative Assembly, and they were the ones who represented all of the concerns of the farmers. Then the Legislative Assembly would go down to the colonial government, also known as Sir Francis Bondhead, and tell them that the farmers were not happy. Now, Sir Francis Bondhead was appointed by the Queen, meaning he was handpicked. He didn't go to school for his job, he didn't get voted in, he was just put there by the British government. And he wasn't that great at his job either. So when he got the job, he started surrounding himself with people who made him look good, meaning friends and maybe even a little bit of family. People that were usually going to agree with what he was going to say. Now does that sound fair? He didn't conduct interviews. He didn't even let people vote people in who were right for the job. Nope. Sir Francis handpicked his favorites to come into office with him. He also picked a lot of people who had a lot of money, because if they had a lot of money, they were bringing that money into the government and he could spend it. This group of people were nicknamed the Family Compact, because it was a lot of his friends and prestigious families with a lot of wealth. This was a select few that made it into the Family Compact. So not fair. I mean, let's think about it. You go to school, you study hard, you go for 4 years of university, and you specialize in that field, and you know this job, you want this job, you love this job, but you can't have it. Because the guy that's hiring hires his brother who hates the job, has never even read a book about it, but because he's the guy's brother, he gets the job. So not fair. Welcome to the family compact. So you can see why this made the farmers even madder. They rallied and told the assembly, who then complained to Sir Francis in the form of a big document called the Seventh Report of Grievances, which really was just one big old rant saying about how unfair it was to be a farmer. So Sir Francis says, "I'll tell you what, we'll hold a vote and you farmers can run for a seat in the council." This is great news, but guess what happens? Sir Francis and his family compact rig the election so that the farmers lose. And they're kicked out of the government. They feel like they've been robbed, so they start the political union. They meet in secret at Montgomery's Tavern or sometimes at people's houses so that the government doesn't know that they are actually getting together. And they start calling themselves reformers because they want to reform the government. Get it? They want to reform the government of the Canadas into something that's fair for all of the immigrants that are coming to Canada. The farmers are so angry. On top of all of this political stuff, their crops are dying, meaning that they have very little food. And Britain isn't sending financial support, meaning money is tight too. We interrupt this Rebel Rabble to bring you a list of why the reformers are so bad. Enter into the story William Lloyd Mackenzie, our first mayor here in Toronto. Now, he's a blogger for the Colonial Advocate, or at least he would have been if he was here today. He had his own newspaper, an editorial piece that he could write, well, anything that he wanted because it was his newspaper. He would repost things onto his newspaper, much like how we do on Tumblr today. He is the angriest, or at least the loudest. Rumor is he would yell in court and even throw his toupee at people. He takes charge of the reformers, who start calling themselves rebels because Mackenzie wants a war. He even goes as far as to publish in his own newspaper that he wants a war against the government, just like America did with their War of Independence. Rumors start that the rebels are meeting in secret, and true enough, Mr. Gibson, who is William Lloyd Mackenzie's friend and high up in the political union, even lets the rebels, reformers, use his backyard to practice their gun drills and also how to learn to use their pitchforks as a weapon. They tell everyone to use the code word turkey shoots so that the loyalists, meaning the people who are loyal to the British Crown, like Sir Francis Bondhead and the Family Compact, all those guys, so that they won't know that they're meeting in secret to overthrow the government. These rumors provoke the Family Compact and their angry side. They've got these guys, more like goons on the third line of a hockey team. They're called the Orangemen. These Orangemen are a bit radical. I mean, when you ask them to do something, they really do it. In fact, they overdo it. Like when Bishop Strawn and Sir Francis tell the Orangemen to break up the secret meetings that Mackenzie's having, they take it a bit far and beat him up and then take his printing press and pitch it into Lake Ontario. Yeah, that's a bit much. The Orangemen acted like thugs, beating up on the reformers, trying to scare them off of this rebellion path. It's kind of like Harry Potter. No, let me explain. So in Harry Potter, you've got Voldemort. Here in this story, very much like Bishop Strawn, the head of all of those clergy reserves and the British Church here in Upper Canada, sends out the Death Eaters. Here in this story, they're the Orangemen, or Men of the Orange Order. And they rough up those opposing the new rule in the Ministry of Magic, also known as Upper Canada in this story. The rebels or reformers are like those in the Order of the Phoenix, trying to use words but then are bullied into using physical force, much like how the Dumbledore's army had to form. And they oppose this unfair rule. See? Just like Harry Potter. This has been Big Red, and this has been Rebel Rabble.